What if I told you that the collapse of modern civilization isn't happening in a history book? It's happening right now on a dating app in Seoul. There is a phrase floating around the dark corners of the internet: 2 to 3 Korean girlfriends and you'll get it too. It sounds like a joke, a meme, but it is actually a warning code. It's shorthand for a social fracture so violent, so irreparable, that it is literally deleting a nation from the map. Look at this image. Burn it into your brain. The mainstream media calls this polarization. I call it a demographic suicide note. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to show you how the gender war isn't just about who pays for dinner. It is a systemic failure designed to pit men and women against each other until the population hits zero. And the scariest part, the West is next. They want you to believe the Hallyu Wave dream, K-pop, skincare, romance. The official narrative is that South Korea is a futuristic utopia, struggling slightly with modernization. They tell you the low birth rate is just because people are too busy or housing is expensive. That is a lie. Here's the smoking gun. Look at the data from the Financial Times and Gallup. In the US, UK, and Germany, men and women are drifting apart. But in South Korea, they aren't drifting. They are fleeing from each other at light speed. Young Korean women have moved sharply, radically liberal. Young Korean men have moved sharply, radically conservative. This isn't a political difference. This is a biological standoff. You have an entire generation of men who feel like the system has targeted them for extinction, and an entire generation of women who view marriage as slavery. And this brings us back to that phrase, 2, 3 Korean girlfriends. The men using this phrase aren't traditional conservatives. They are reactionaries. They claim that dating in Korea today is a crash course in political radicalization. They argue that one date exposes you to a level of ideological hostility, financial expectation, and structural oppressor framing that would make a Western Twitter thread look like a children's book. The true term for this operation isn't dating, it's asymmetric warfare. In the West, feminism is often an academic debate. In Korea, it is visceral, it is intimate. It is the realization that the person across the dinner table doesn't just disagree with you. They might despise what you represent. And the result? A fertility rate of 0.72, the lowest in the world, a country that is mathematically eliminating itself. The system is broken. But why? Why is the divide here so much worse than anywhere else? You might be thinking, that's crazy, but that's Korea. That's halfway around the world. But that's just the surface. What I'm about to show you ties this directly to a massive exodus happening in the UK right now. A phenomenon called the Youth Vanishing Act. You won't believe the connections between a lonely man in Seoul and a 30-year-old fleeing London. First, hit the like button if you think the news lies to you every day, because what I'm about to reveal in Act 2 proves that this isn't an accident, it's engineering. Let's dismantle the mechanism. How do you take a homogeneous, high-trust society and break it in half in less than 10 years? You apply pressure from 3 sides until the vessel cracks. Element 1. The conscription resentment. Every able-bodied South Korean man must serve nearly 2 years in the military. They lose 2 years of wages, 2 years of career advancement, 2 years of freedom. Women do not. In the past, men were compensated for this sacrifice with social status and economic advantage. Today, that advantage is gone, but the sacrifice remains. When these men return to society, they don't find gratitude. They find a modern feminist movement, online and offline, that frames them as privileged patriarchs. They feel squeezed. They feel mocked. They feel like they are paying the bill for a history they didn't write. Element 2, the economic vice. This is where the elites really tighten the screws. The competition for jobs in Korea is a blood sport. Housing costs in Seoul are astronomical. When you have a shrinking economic pie, gender equality stops being a goal and starts being a zero-sum game. If she gets the job, he doesn't. If he gets the promotion, she doesn't. The corporate ladder has become a cage match. Element 3, the 4B movement. This is the nuclear option. Bihon, Bihon-ae, Biseksu, Bichul-san. This isn't just staying single. This is a political boycott of men. It is a refusal to participate in the biological continuation of the state. Look at the pattern. They did it with the herbivore men in Japan, men checking out of society to protect their peace. They did it with the polarization in the US, turning dating apps into political litmus tests. And now they're doing it with the 4B movement in Korea. The thread tying them all together is the breach of contract. Society is built on a deal. You work hard, you follow the rules, you get a family and a future. That deal has been canceled The elites ripped up the contract, kept the money, and left men and women to fight over the scraps in the ruins of the dating market. This is why the 2-3 girlfriends phrase goes viral. It's not just misogyny, and it's not just bitterness. It is a signal of grievance. It's a man saying, I played by the rules, and I was punished for it. When you push men into a corner where they feel economically castrated and morally condemned, you don't get progress. You get a reactionary explosion. You get the data we saw in that first chart. A generation of men moving so far to the right, they are falling off the edge of the political spectrum. But here is the terrifying part. If you think this is just a Korean problem, you are asleep at the wheel. Let's look at the brand new data from the UK Office for National Statistics. For the first time, they broke down British nationals leaving the country by age. Around 53% of the net outflow is age 16 to 24. 46% is age 25-34. Goodbye, Nick. Goodbye, Sarah. The youth are fleeing. Why? Because the Western version of the Korean deal is just as broken. In Korea, the reaction to the broken contract is a gender war and a birth strike. In the UK, the reaction is exodus. In the US, it's deaths of despair and radical polarization. The symptoms look different, but the disease is the same. The system has made it impossible for young people to build a life. In Korea, the tension is so high that men and women have turned into enemy combatants. The gender war is just the local flavor of a global collapse. When you hear 2-3 Korean girlfriends and you'll get it too, understand what it is. It is the realization that the modern world is hostile to traditional human connection. It is the realization that the scripts we were given, go to school, get a job, get married, are outdated code running on a crashed server. The divergence in that chart is a warning. It shows what happens when you let online culture wars, economic desperation, and radical ideology dictate human relationships. You don't get equality, you get extinction. We started with a meme, we ended with a funeral for a nation. The phrase 2-3 Korean girlfriends isn't advice. It's a tragedy. It's the sound of a society realizing that the bridge between men and women has been burned down, and there are no materials left to rebuild it. So, what do? You wake up. You realize that the media wants you fighting the other gender, so you don't look at who is actually rigging the game. Do not let your relationships become political battlegrounds. Do not let the algorithm radicalize your romance. If you want to survive the collapse, you need to understand the code. Subscribe to the channel, join the resistance, and tell me in the comments, is the gender war in your country getting worse, or have you already checked out? I'll see you in the next one, assuming we're still here.